we're on Twitch. Let's see if Twitch works this week.
I need to pull that up.
Let me know.
I'm looking.
YouTube is up.
Okay, I see us on YouTube. I've not seen us go live on Twitch yet.
Should be. Let me see.
Damn it, Casey. Dead again.
Are you still playing this?
Can't second boss. I just can't do it.
The fisherman is a pain in the ass. Can't confirm.
No, sometimes it's the fisherman, sometimes it's the miner. Casey's mixes it up.
Dag nabbit.
No, Twitch is not up.
Wow.
Why is that up? Weird.
Any later, and I could have made the episode. Listen.
What a guy. Hey, Jeff. Hey, Sinstress. Hey, GP. Sorry we're late.
Sorry we're late, guys. My fault. You can blame me. We're still waiting to see if Twitch is going to pop up here, so give us a second.
It's possible card doesn't start. Yeah, it doesn't want to start. I wonder if it's because I have a second browser window up with Edge. That's the only thing I can think of.
We can upload the highlight to Twitch later.
That's fine. All right. We're already late enough, so no Twitch this week. Whatever. We will figure this out somehow. At least YouTube.
Yes.
That's the important one. All right, let me hit recording. And then Chard, whenever you're ready. Oh, hold on. I have to fix the video. Yeah.
Whenever you're Nope.
All right, now you can go. Whenever you want.
Right.
Even now.
All right. Even now? Right now?
Even now.
Even right now?
No, wait.
Nope. You got Miles. Stop! All right.
Go ahead.
From pink ponies to Satan. From mythical characters in RPGs to flipping cards with minors. The Odd World of Daniel Mullins. Today on. Guys, welcome to an extremely late episode. Friday. Welcome to Press B to cancel your favorite late podcasts. We're going on right now.
For those listening to the audio, we're exactly on time, so it's fine. Don't worry about it.
You know what? This is going to drop on. No, we're going to be at least an hour late dropping this on Monday because we have to keep in true form. Guys, thank you so much for coming out. I am your host this evening. I am the one that caused everybody to be late, so I apologize. Thank you so much for hanging out. I appreciate it. Today, I am not alone. As usual, I have two of my favorite people that I know out there. Mr. Sick Jake, how are you today? Welcome in.
Good. I'm glad it's a Friday, and I'm really excited to talk about today's topic and Daniel Mullins games. They're just something I found into recently, and they are so fantastic. So can't wait to talk.
They are. You know what? Well, you know what else would be fantastic if you had a better mic to talk into. Werewolf.
We can't do this inside jokes, Chard. Well. They're just going to think I'm an
not
asshole.
Inside anymore. That shit is so outside. It looks like
I am
someone's
disappointed. I am disappointed that Jake is not running this from his Steam Deck.
We're going to be talking about the Steam Deck today too, because we are going to be talking about Daniel Mullins. Now, Daniel Mullins, his team or himself, I don't know exactly. I don't think it's just him, but I got to tell you, the man that created this, Daniel Mullins, has created at least 3 games that I am aware of that we're going to talk about tonight. We've all kind of played different variations of his game. I discovered his game in a museum, in a pop culture museum here in Seattle, and fell in love with it. Like you guys joke about it. It's the truth. I was in. They had an 8-bit or a video game expose going on at the time, and I stumbled upon Pony Island in this museum, and I played it for maybe 15 minutes. I had no idea what was going on, but I was so excited when I played it that I had to come home, and I found it on Steam and I purchased it. And this game, as we will discover throughout this episode, Daniel Mullins doesn't just make a game; he makes a fucking adventure. Sorry, YouTube. It is a mind-bending, twisting game, and I was so into what Pony Island presented that I went and looked to see what else he had, and there were two more games that Jake had mentioned and Wolf had both mentioned. One called Inscryption that these guys both played, and Jake mentioned it was a card game, so I was automatically out. I was completely out because Jake and I don't agree on card games very much. If it isn't Triple Triad, I don't want to touch it. But
You're just
he had
biased
another
because you
one.
don't like one card game I do. I love Marvel Snap and you hate it. I mean,
I hate
can't help
Gwent.
you like bad games.
I hate
Basically.
Marvel Snap. I hate what is it? The one in Final Fantasy IX? What is that? Quadra,
Oh, I don't like that one
whatever.
either.
It's garbage.
Tetramaster,
Tetramaster,
yeah.
thank you.
the one I like.
And you know, I have too many bad memories of Uno. So kind of swore off card games. But there's another one that he released called The Hex, which is something different. Jake,
I mean,
How's my mic now, son of a bitch?
looks great. That's
Yeah.
the happiest I've ever seen you.
True. I can run Marvel Snap on the Steam Deck. Do you know how amazing that is?
Yeah.
It's great.
Anyways, so I took it upon myself to take the long road down Daniel Mullins's categories and or catalog, sorry, not categories, catalog, and checked out The Hex myself. I had previously played Pony Island and streamed it, and we also streamed The Hex, and we streamed a little Inscryption. Now, Jake was ranting and raving about Inscryption, and now I know why. Because after giving it a shot myself, which is also very playable on the Steam Deck. Once you kind of get the feeling of the touchpads on the Steam Deck, it's extremely playable on there. And I've been playing it a lot in my private time. When I go to bed, I like fire it up because I know that this game is going to take me on an adventure. It's not just what it is on the surface. What Daniel Mullins does is he takes what seemingly seems like such a simple, surfacey game, especially in Inscryption, when you're just playing card games. And I kept asking these guys, "Hey, how close am I to the end?" And both of them were like, "Keep going, man. Just keep going. Just keep going. We don't want to spoil anything for you. You're close, but keep going." And I wasn't close. I wasn't even near the end that I thought I
Well,
was going to be at.
We didn't want to spoil things, but we should, maybe we should start in order and start with Pony Island.
Yeah,
just because that's the
absolutely.
video I have queued up. So
Perfect. All right. Well,
save Inscryption for last if you don't mind.
let's fine. We'll save the best for last. So let's go ahead and we'll take a walk back into the path of Pony Island. Pony Island is a game that appears to be a simple side-scrolling pony game where you are just trying to jump over fences.
That's a genre,
And
right? It's like
I
that should be a category for the Game Awards. Best pony game.
I
That's what we should do.
mean that's it is. It is. I mean, it's a side-scrolling
Yeah.
jumping game.
Yeah.
And it's so simplistic and so simple that you're like, why is this even a thing? But as you play it, you come to find out, spoiler alert. I see, here's the thing. There's so much to these games that I worry about spoilers for a lot of people who want to try these games out. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna blanket say right now, this is gonna be a spoilery episode. So if you have any desire to play Pony Island, Inscryption, The Hex, any of these things,
well, let's preface that with if you've got desire to play these completely unspoiled.
yeah. Fair. And I'm not going to give away any hints or anything that will ruin the ending for the game or cheat you through some things. But the games Pony Island turns into basically a welcome to the game type game. If anybody's played Welcome to the Game, it's a hacking game, and the devil is trying to take your soul through this video game, and you're trying to save your soul by playing this video game. and you're being talked to trap souls that are in the game that are trying to help you escape the game. So it turns into a side scrolling, this is a silly little pony game, into literally you fighting with the devil and reprogramming his game so that you can escape it in a very odd manner. It is so next fucking level. It's literally a mind-blowing game. And it
Well,
is
what gets me
so
is like
fun.
it's an endless runner, or at least at first glance you think, "Oh, this is cute. It's a pony. It's an endless runner. It's got a sense of humor to it." But it feels like at first 5 minutes that's just an endless runner, and you don't think there's much to the game. But then, like all his games, the first look is deceiving in what it actually ends up being, right?
Right. Exactly. Like there's hidden messages and hidden codes where you could simply just run the game. You could just run it over and over again, and that's what it is. That's what the devil plans on having you do. But you can break it. You can crack it by going into the code and all the flow charts that he has and breaking it to the point to where he changes it up and turns it into like an RPG map, and he turns it into this other thing, and there's all these secrets that you can find, and there's always someone trying to tell you how to get past something or how we can pre-program this thing. But there's so many like puzzles in the game to help you break it that it just turns it into a completely different game, and it's so like gripping that it's almost like I can't put it down. Like when I started Pony Island, I couldn't stop playing it. It was so much fun and it was so interesting and where it was going. And I had no I couldn't I didn't expect where it was going to go. So I had to know where it was going to go. So I kept on playing until I beat it. And it's pretty good. I don't know if either of you have any experience with Pony Island. If you do, please tell us your story.
I played it some many years ago, so it's been a long time since I touched it, so I don't remember it too well. But I do remember basically it's you're out cheating the devil because you're cheating, he's cheating back, and it's just who can cheat better, right?
It's nothing better when the devil calls you a cheater. That's one of my favorite things is when you break one of the games and you give your pony lasers to fight off the devil heads that he keeps throwing at you, and he keeps saying you're cheating and not making this fun for me anymore, essentially. And it's like, yeah, you're trying to take my soul, man. Of course, I'm trying to get the hell out of this. So, um, and it just keeps going. It just keeps evolving and de-evolving and breaking and coming back. And there's a point where he's like, I didn't plan for any of this. I didn't write any code for this. You have to go do something else so that I can do this thing here. So you got to play with this, and then you could come back and play the game, and we can get back to where we are. So you come in and play it, and it's all like not finished, and there's like framework that's broken, and and he's like, you can't play it yet. I'm not done with it yet, and it's really cool.
Yeah, this is pretty wild. I heard about this game. I think I just finished Frog Fractions, and Frog Fractions is kind of similar in this idea where it's a game that is not what you think it is in the first 5 minutes. You have to kind of dive deep into it. And after loving the twist in Frog Fractions, I was looking for other games like this, and somebody told me to check out Pony Island. And when I first started it up, I'm like, well, this is crap. And then you realize the dialogue, and then the devil spin on it, and you realize, okay, this is not just a flash game of an endless runner. There's actually more to this. There's like a mobile game where you're a unicorn or something, and it's an endless runner. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It has that song by Erasure playing constantly. It's a fun little game, and that's what this reminded me of. I can't remember what the hell the name of that mobile game is, but that's what I thought this was. And then then it gets weird, and the weird stuff is it is compelling, and it really sucks you in. I love how you start going through the menus and you're forced to tweak options in the menus to change things. Like there's a what do they call it? It's like a humming noise. They call it ominous hum or something, and you
Yeah,
can lower
yeah,
the volume of it in the
yeah.
game, and he chews you out for it. It's just a wild sense of humor for this game. It's pretty amazing. Yeah, I love this.
It's
The game you
surprisingly
were
dark.
thinking of was Robot Unicorn Attack, by the way. I googled it.
That's the one.
Robot
Yeah, I think
unicorn
it was an
attack.
Adult Swim game. I think, but yes, that's the
Yeah,
one.
that sounds
Okay.
right.
Yeah, just like and navigating like the main menu stuff to get things unlocked and to see your way around stuff is it's really clever because there's things hidden and stuff that you can't see. They got the 0 and 1 codes where there's certain things written in here. There's a section here that you're showing on the video where you're trying to click on the pony lasers to give yourself pony lasers to fight again the cheating thing. So you have to crack the code to make the screen bigger so you can actually click on the highlight because he keeps moving it every time your cursor tries to get on it. And when you get it to the actual size of your screen and you can click it, that's when it says, a cheater, you're a cheater. How did you get into this? You can't be in here. Well, I'll let you play it this way anyways, but it doesn't matter. I'm still gonna steer your soul. Like there's all this dialogue that goes with the game, and it is just riveting. I love this game.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say too about the guy who created this, Daniel Mullins. This game was pretty impactful. Again, it kind of flew under my radar. I had heard about it, but I never really dived into it. But it was impactful enough that the guy who created this game, he ended up on Forbes 30 under 30 list, which is a pretty
Wow.
prestigious
Wow.
list. Yeah, I just found that out today. So, because his profile on that site was basically talking about him and mentions he's got a new game coming out called The Hex. So this was before The Hex he made that list. And like
Mhm.
outside of this, I don't know if he's done anything else. So that's pretty an awesome achievement that this is your first game, you get that much attention and notice, and that you're on Forbes list. That's pretty awesome.
Right. Right. I mean,
Seriously.
it's super clever. Like even Pony Island, even the hex. I mean, the hex itself, it's a different kind of feel, but it's still super clever. And then Inscription, when we get into that, we'll talk into that in more detail. Jake's already kind of coined it, maybe possibly a game of the year candidate. I mean, it's old. It's a couple years old, but like
Spoilers.
in that sense, like that's how good it is. Like
Yes.
he hasn't made it that or named it that. He's just saying. And I went, I don't know, but even I like it. And I don't like card games, but there's so much to it that it's so much deeper than it is. But we can definitely dive into the hex too, because the hex is also a completely different like
S-
feel to the game.
So the Hex we should talk about because I played Pony Island and I played Inscription, of course, but I've not played the Hex. I only watched you play a little bit of it, so I'm not sure if Wolf you've played this one more or if it's just Chard.
I have not played the Hex, but I watched Chard playing it last week.
This is a super clever game. It just has all those video game tropes for different genres throughout the thing. So the concept is you show up in this bar, right? And there's a barkeeper that says, there's going to be a murder here. Help me solve this murder. Like it's predetermined. Someone here is going to get murdered. Help me solve the murder, right? So you start out as a character that's in a side scrolling platforming game. And at some point, you flash back to this character, like being basically Sonic or Mario, but he's a big name character in this game. So you get knocked out or you focus yourself into something else and the character's in the game again and he's playing it and they're all owned by this one game company. And as you're playing the game, you're jumping and you're grabbing bubbles and you're doing all this shit like you would do in a platformer. And as the game progresses, it gets worse. Like the game turns bad. And while you're playing it, the game actually pulls friends from your Steam profile to put up what's the word I'm thinking of? Reviews of this game while you're playing it. So, Jake, you're a friend of my Steam profile. You wrote a review in the game that said, I love this game. This is so much fun collecting bubbles and doing blank. And then it pops up again, and your character is walking across the reviews. And as the game continues, it's like this is now like the sequel to the game, or this has now been bought up by somebody else, and we're adding all this extra shit to the game. The reviews get worse. Like they start popping up being like, it's not as good as the first one, or the remake is crap. This port is terrible. And it's taking people that are in your Steam profile and actually writing these reviews.
That's on brand,
Each
yeah.
character, it's super and it's perfect because some of the stuff they said that you wrote, I was like, I think Jake actually wrote that. But as you progress, it changes characters that are in this bar, and you play these other characters. And there's like a fighting game character where you have to actually fight. There's an RPG character where she goes into her RPG game. And this is my favorite. I'm going to spoil this because it's my favorite part. There's these things that look like Moogles, which everybody knows. Get your bingo
Yeah.
cards out. I got two of them here.
Chard pointing at his
That are
background, yep.
there you go. that are teaching you how to play the game, but the main character is so annoyed that they already know how to play the game because they don't want there to be a sequel of this game because they're already in like a new game plus. So you kill the Moogle. You kill the Moogle in the fight. It's like, well, apparently you already know all these powers. You should go a little lighter on me. I'm just trying to show you, and you murder the Moogle. Well, the Moogle had a family, and that family shows up later in the game in a different game. It turns into like an overhead like shooter game, like Helldivers or something like that. It does all these aspects. There's a section of it where you're showing the old man walking around. He does like a Fallout type version of the game
Yeah.
where it's like
It's
a
like a
post-apocalyptic thing.
it's like a Fallout tactical RPG.
Yeah, yeah. And so there's a tactical RPG element, there's a regular RPG element, there's a cooking game where you're trying to cook food as fast as you can. And there's callbacks to a lot of different things in like previous games. I think there's a few like things in Pony Island that they bring up just nonchalantly if you're paying attention. But there's so many games mixed into this, and you're trying to figure out who the murderer is, who gets murdered and who the murderer is. And I won't spoil any of that because it's pretty in depth as you're playing through it. But the transition from like each character, you're finding out these characters pasts and why they are the way they are at this bar. And at the end of each segment, every character shows up in this bar. So like when you're done with one person segment, they show up in this bar and you're like, that's how they got here. But there's like this whole overhead umbrella thing that everyone has a connection to that you find out
Right.
about later as you play through the game. And the twist isn't as twisty as I'd say Pony Island at the end of the hex, but just playing it in general of like going from the platform jumper to the Hell Divers overhead gun game and the RPG elements and all the jokes inside. There's like you got to bring the Sphinx some onks in the desert in the RPG section. And they're like, there's a hacked version of onks where you can get as many as you want. And he goes, don't bring me broken onks. I'll know they're broken. I'll know they're hacked. But you still go get them anyways. And you show up with him. He goes, these all look good. And then later he pops up and he goes, you're the guy that brought me the broken onks. And then you fight him later. It's just got all this like a lot of connectivity throughout the game where old bosses show up and while you're playing a different game. And it's on par with like bad ports that we talk about a lot in this show.
Right.
Um and people just bringing shit in that shouldn't be brought into games. They cover all of that and it's hilarious. The whole
I
gameplay is super funny.
I didn't realize there was that many genres in it. Like I think I did watch a little bit of you play
Yeah, I
it, but
didn't
I
either.
think I watched you do the tactics side only. I didn't see the
Yeah.
shooting part at all.
hmm The
I
very
I
end
saw the
has like
shooter
kind of an
part.
overhead thing. Yeah.
Okay.
I saw
That's
both the
that's
tactical RPG and the shooter part. And that was just
it's
already a really huge transition in gameplay styles. And I was like, whoa.
it's worth it. And I think these games are both Pony Island and the Hex are like
Too cheap.
$4.
Yeah.
They're super cheap on Steam and they're
Yeah.
absolutely entertaining. And I think they've got a lot of really good replay value on both of them. These are the two that I know fairly well. Um, Covering these two. Now the rest now all of us have played Inscryption. So we'll probably be able to do a much deeper dive into this kind of
Yeah.
game. So
I took the video for
those are
the
the
hex down
premises
because
going
I was
into it.
getting toward the ending and I didn't want to spoil the ending in the video because I was skipping
Mm.
through trying to get gameplay examples, but I didn't want to spoil it. The hex is really cool. I love how it's like 6 different characters in a bar, but each has their own backstory and their own unique gameplay. That's really interesting. I need to play this one. I never gave it a shot. I thought it wasn't as good as Pony Island when I watched you play it, but I didn't watch enough
Yeah.
of it clearly because I think I would totally dig this game for sure.
It's cheesy and hokey, but that's like the intent. Like it
Right.
is designed to be again on surface area. You're looking at it, you're like, this looks like I don't know. And then as you play it, everybody's story is so good. And the way, like I said, the way Pony Island did the same thing where you're fighting one of the demon files and it's asking you questions and it will pull up. So it pulled up my DM and have one of my friends DM me stuff while it's trying to ask me a question because it says, don't take your eyes off of me or you're going to miss the answer. And I literally thought that somebody was DMing me that I hadn't spoken to. I was like, why the fuck is that guy sending me DMs? I was like, oh, it's the game doing that. So I take my eyes off the game. So there's a lot of really clever Steam elements that he mixed in with it. That he does the same thing in the Hex, where it's, like I said, Wolf is writing a review about how much he loves the RPG version of the game, and the character in the game hates it so much that she actually works with the villain to have the game fail so they don't make anymore because she doesn't want to be in the game anymore. Like it's this really weird spin on stuff. It's really, really cool. Would absolutely recommend the Hex to anybody else out
Yeah, these are
there.
games that I figured out how I played Pony Island is on Daniel Mullins' website. He's got a web browser version.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's how I played it. So it wasn't the full experience that's on the Steam version
Mm.
because apparently Pony Island and Inscryption were both Ludum Dare projects before they were the full games that they became. So that's how
So
I
for,
played Pony Island originally.
so
So
for those who don't
I
know what
don't.
that is, Ludum Dare is it's like a game, not a competition, but kind of like a personal game challenge you do in groups with other folks, and usually you have 48 hours to kind of just get work done and make a game concept or prototype. And it looks like he's been
Yeah,
a big fan of those.
but
It
on
makes
his
sense.
website, there's like if you include sacrifices must be made, which is Inscription's,
Yeah.
Ludum Dare entry, and then the Pony Island Ludum Dare version. There's 17 web browser games on his website to play.
And I bet they're all freaking amazing.
They're
They
probably
should
all
be.
super wild in this way,
Right.
And it
The
wouldn't
in
surprise me if um what's the hex. It wouldn't surprise me if the hex pulled from some of these other games that are on here.
Yeah.
And
I'd
actually,
believe
it's
it.
funny. He did a claim your free Bit Buddy thing last year at some point, where
Yeah.
those desktop pets that used to be a huge thing.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah, yeah,
like the
yeah.
gorilla, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like that. But if you ever close the app, your Bit Buddy dies permanently. And
Yeah.
so if you reopen it later, so if you turn off your computer, like once you turn off your computer or do a restart or whatever, and you reopen it, your Bit Buddy's just dead.
That's
And so
that's
you
his
can
humor
mess
for
with the
sure.
Bit Buddy because your Bit Buddy is completely aware that if the app ever closes, he dies. And my
God
kid was
damn
the
it.
one who found this one and wanted to install it. And so
That's awesome.
I'm recognizing it now here. I'm like, oh, he did that. That totally
That's
checks out.
that just definitely checks out. There's a lot of connection too between the Hex and Inscription that neither of you guys will probably catch, where they
Yeah.
actually drop the characters' games from the Hex in Inscription. So while you guys are doing the different, things in the game, they have dropped the names of like the RPG is brought up at least once or twice in Inscription later on. And I had a great laugh about that. I was like, this motherfucker brought this thing back in there. Because that was my favorite part of the game was the RPG element of the Hex.
Yeah.
So I
So
thought it
he
was
he
pretty
kind of
cool.
does a couple of things, I guess, through all three games. There's a couple of things that are common. I guess one is that it's always based around some kind of video game gone wrong or cursed in some way, right? Pony Island was a cursed arcade machine. The Hex is like
Mhm.
a cursed video game, and then Inscription is a whole thing we'll get to. So I like that. I also like how he kind of goes outside the box for a lot of this stuff. Like it seems like either he's pulling, your screenshots or your friends list from Steam, or Inscription has an internet component to it. I like how he's bending the rules of what the app does to kind of get outside of it and have that external thing. It's interesting. The closest I've
Mhm.
seen to something like this is like Tunic, with the whole ARG thing that's part of Tunic and the language and whatnot. How it's the game outside of the game components are really interesting, and I love that stuff. So I'm glad that Hex
Yeah.
has some of that, and that's really cool. I love the review part of it. You mentioned I gotta have to check that out. The fact that it's pulling your Steam friends and having
Yeah.
fake reviews is funny as hell.
It's very clever. Every aspect that he adds to the game just adds more and more cleverness as he goes. And it feels like, since we're going to bleed into Inscription now, it feels like Inscription is, I wouldn't say his magnum opus, but it is his best game that he's done out of all the three that I've
Yeah.
played from Steam. This one has the most thought into it. It is very well thought out. It's a great puzzler, and it when you think it's over, when you think it's done, it's definitely not.
Yeah.
And I
So
think that's one of the things I liked about him.
So for Inscription, which is great, you can definitely tell he's at this point in his game career. He now hires some help. He's had some help in the, I think it's the music and the graphic department. If you look at the credits, it's largely still him. It's definitely his narrative and his ideas and his mechanics, but he's expanded in terms of what budget and what he could do. And it's a very polished looking game to the point where when I was playing Inscription, I didn't realize this was the guy who did Pony Island until I was a good chunk of the way into the game, and I'm like, this is so weird. It was wild. And when I looked up online, I'm like, oh, he did Pony Island. No wonder it's
Mhm.
weird. But this is another game where it's definitely deceiving because I grabbed on the Switch because it was on sale. I think it was like $20, and I really wanted to play like a card game. And I heard a lot of good things about Inscription when it came out a couple years ago. It was on my list, but I played, was it play the Slay the Spire, and I played Monster Train quite a bit last year, so I wasn't really into doing another card game, so I kind of dismissed it. But I'm sitting on my Switch, it's on sale. You know what? I want to play it. I want to play a nice card game. And it also says it's like a roguelike elements to it. So roguelike card game, I'm in. And I started to play it, and then as you're playing a few rounds, you realize it's like a card game and a table, but you can get up from the table and walk around this cabin that you're trapped in. So it's kind of like escape the room type of mechanics to it. So I'm like, all right, that's really cool. It's a card game, a bit of a roguelike, escape the room. It's pretty rad. So the initial impressions of this game were pretty awesome. Like just everything about the presentation, being stuck in this scary cabin with what his name is, Leshy, I think is what his name is.
Yeah, Leshy. Yeah,
The
yeah.
Yeah.
they basically the DM or
Mhm.
the one who's guiding your experience playing this game. It reminds me a lot of I don't know if you guys ever played this game. It's called Hand of Fate. There's two of them. There's a first and a second one,
Mhm.
and it reminded me of
I
that.
have not played it.
So
Yeah,
Hand of
I've
Fate was
heard of it.
is like a card game, right? You have a tabletop and you play cards, but you have encounters on this tabletop, and the encounters take you over to like a third person beat 'em up stages. It's a really cool mechanic. It kind of ties into an RPG theme, and the cards give you powers and abilities. So when I was playing Inscription, it felt like that, where you're playing this
Mhm.
game where you have a DM basically laying out this game before you, and you're going along this board that's randomly generated, or procedurally generated, and there's cards involved, but the gameplay is actually you're playing card matches. So I felt like that at first, but it gets so wild.
It does. And
Yeah.
what pissed me off as the game is designed, and it's very similar in the aspects of Pony Island, where it almost feels like Leshy, you're the challenger, or the guy you're playing against, is making up the goddamn rules as you go. So it's
Totally,
like
yeah,
when you feel like you've got it figured out and you're doing good, he changes everything up on you. He totally
yeah.
screws you in a way that it's almost impossible to win. And then when you figure that out and you finally get, like, because Jake says it's a roguelike, because you'll get cards, and even when you lose, you can still have the same cards that you find. But like, even when you figure more stuff out, he still just keeps fucking with you and keeps messing with you throughout it. And the good chunk of my time was trying to figure out how to beat this asshole and
Well,
get past the game.
it's neat because like the mechanics are kind of doled out to you slowly, right? Like when you realize that at some point that teeth are the currency in the game, you can use gold teeth to buy cards or pelts. So they're very hard to come by initially, but then you get a skull item that's in the cabin, so you can get out every so often, get up from the table, walk over to the skull, and you can yank out gold teeth, and that gives you money for future runs. It's kind of like just added on slowly, right? The other one was the smoke mechanic, right? The first time you die,
Mhm.
he shows you a candle, and you basically have 2 lives per run at that point, or later on 3. And the smoke, when you use it, you get a card from it. So they kind of you die quickly at first, and then they slowly add in other items to make your runs longer and longer, much like roguelikes do, the good ones do,
Mhm.
and makes the runs easier and more expensive and more options to the player. It's really solidly designed.
It is, and there's puzzles throughout the cabin
Yeah.
that you can solve that can help give you an edge in certain aspects of the game. But it also helps drive the game forward on top of that because there is underneath the card playing and you fighting Leshy in the card games, there is an actual extremely in-depth story that's going on that you don't discover until probably the 20th time that you've died from this guy trying to get through it. It just
Yeah.
keeps on growing and the cards are talking to you and you're like, what is going on? Like, why is all
Yeah.
this happening? Go ahead, Wolf.
Oh, I was just I forgot about the cards talking to you because I was only playing. I played through this game well over a year ago at this point.
Mhm.
But yeah, the escape room and roguelite thing is the whole. That's really what drew me in. It was like, okay, roguelite card game, escape room, I'm in. And
Right,
so I was super into it. And then, there's certain things about the escape room that are like you solve each time you get a goodie. And then there's certain things that are you solve once you get a goodie, and then that's just kind of that, right? And it moves
right.
things forward. It's really cool the way they do it. Um, but like there's certain ways to game the system to where each successive run you can sort of stack the odds in your favor, which is how you ultimately end up being able to complete a run, right?
Right,
Right.
right.
And the escape room aspect, I think, is what ultimately ends up ending that segment, right? If I'm
Mhm.
not mistaken.
Yeah.
Basically, yeah. Yeah,
And like
you
for the
you
for the card
you
game itself, for those we should explain the mechanics a little bit. Like it's think Magic the Gathering, but instead of mana, you have to you basically place a creature and you sacrifice it to create other creatures in these lanes that you have. And the default creature you have that is free is a squirrel, right? But it's neat because you have the squirrel and you sacrifice them to some other creatures. But there's things in the escape room. There's a certain puzzle where if you can match the cards in an actual game that you do, you unlock a card from it. But if you finish that whole rotation, you actually unlock the ability to turn your squirrels into bees. And bees are like
Mhm.
squirrels; they're free, but they fly, so they can block flying creatures. So I thought that kind of stuff is really cool. I missed it the first time I went through the game. It's one of those things you have to really dig for. But
Yeah.
I do like how you have three cards that ultimately talk to you, and the first one you get is the stoat. I don't even know what a stoat is, but it's some kind of
Stoat.
mammal.
Yeah.
Stoat,
It's a
okay.
marmot.
Is it? Okay. But the first time he
It's like a
talks to you,
ferret.
he introduces himself to you. But when the mechanic of the game is to sacrifice creatures to create other bigger creatures, the first time you're given the option to sacrifice them, he's like, "Okay, fine, do it. I get it. It's fine." Like they're so sarcastic with you, like they're
I
resigned to their
love it.
fate.
I
It's
love
it's
it
so
because he'll put
funny.
it on there and it won't even finish the text. Like
Yeah.
he'll start saying, "Oh, come on," and it just like cuts him off at like, "Come on," and it kicks him off the board. I
Yeah.
fucking is so clever. I
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah, it's really witty. Like you get the wolf, the one-eyed wolf later on, and he's just like super wise and super matter of fact about things. It's like, do it. You sacrifice me for the better, greater good, or whatever. Like theme to him. It's
Yeah.
really awesome.
Mhm.
And then again, it all plays into the larger story of that those cards are actually characters, and it's so well done. Um, I don't want to spoil the ending to this game, but I think we can safely talk about the end of Act One and what it turns into. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think that's fair because I know some people ultimately get disappointed at what Act 2 is.
Right.
So
Act two
knowing that
is
there's
definitely a
a
change.
very drastic change between the acts and what you experience and how the gameplay kind of evolves in each act, it's
Mhm.
it's going to drastically change what the gameplay is like. Not extraordinarily. I mean, it's not like going from an RPG to a platformer. It's more like going from Mario to Sonic. Like it's that kind of drastic change. They
Right.
play pretty differently, even though they're both platformers. It's that kind of drastic change.
Yeah.
Right.
But
So,
so it's
so
still
maybe we can
ultimately a card game.
maybe we can say at this point, if you should play Inscription. It is definitely one of my favorite
Yes.
games of this year. But if you really want to play it without spoilers, then I'm gonna suggest jump ahead 20 minutes
Yeah.
because I want to talk about that change. So you have your
Well,
spoiler warning.
we should
Go
also
ahead.
talk about a little bit of the meta that's going on in the game, right? I think we could
Absolutely.
touch on that before we delve into the spoilers of
Okay.
Act 2.
I
And
I
it's
figured we were gonna do some pretty in-depth discussion of Inscription, so I
there's
second Jake's, like, it's gonna be spoiler territory from
yeah.
this point out.
But we'll talk about the meta a little bit up front. So you start up the game and you're sort of experiencing it from the perspective of a YouTuber or content creator who just
A
found
lucky
this
Carter.
game and he's
Yep.
firing it up. So you hear his reactions to the game as you're going through. So you get
Mhm.
to see the content he's creating around it and the videos he's recording, and sort of as you're playing you hear his reactions to what's happening in the game, which is kind of
Right.
wild.
And
And
it's real recorded video. Like they got
Yeah,
the
it's
actor who's
actual
playing the
recorded
yeah,
part,
version.
and he's recording with the
Yep.
camcorder, and he's sitting there opening booster packs of Inscryption, the card game, before getting a copy of this digital video game version mysteriously. It's all recorded.
yeah,
It's
and
wild.
it's this guy named Luke Carter, and his YouTube channel or whatever is
Yeah.
Lucky
Lucky
Carter.
Carter.
And so
Yeah.
he's like this big card game connoisseur who does like booster pack openings on his channel and
Right.
stuff like that. So it's
And during one of his openings, he's got cards from the RPG that's from the Hex. So he drops that name from
Oh,
the
does he?
RPG from the Hex on there.
Oh,
He's
I
like,
didn't
got
realize
cards
that.
from
That's
the
neat.
Return of like Ligaia or something. I forget what the name of the thing is, but he's opening up the card packs from that RPG. And I was like,
That's cool.
if it's from the Hex, that's hilarious. So that's the tie-in that they have like a little bit later on. But yeah,
So I guess
he's basically doing the whole thing. He's got a green screen behind him, and he's discussing it just like, as we as streamers are like, he's like, yeah, I'll put some explosions or something in the background while I'm opening these things up. Like he's like walking through how he's gonna do his YouTube. And as it continues, it becomes more of like there's a more of a horror game feel as
yeah.
the videos continue, and it turns into almost like a found footage kind of game or a found
Yeah.
footage kind of
Yeah.
video as he keeps continuing to talk about this Inscryption stuff.
Like he's trying to find out who made this game. Does the company still exist? And he looks them down. He tracks them online. He sends them emails. Then he starts getting phone calls, visitors to his house, and it's all recorded, right? Found footage style,
Right.
like you mentioned. And it gets actually quite creepy. And that's
Yeah.
like when people watching the YouTube video, you're seeing the footage of the card game, just the card game itself. And we're talking about all this found footage, Blair Witch Project style stuff. And that's where the game goes. And it's so bizarre. It goes from a really fun card game to this. And it takes quite a
Right.
turn. Yeah.
But the card game never stops. Like you said, when we go to Act
Right.
2, it almost turns into like what I refer to it as is like Game Boy Advance Pokemon.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
it's still the card game. But there's different rules and there's different categories now. So it's like you take Gen 1, you're playing Gen 1 Magic the Gathering in Act 1, and then Act 2 you're playing like Gen 4 because there's like all these different rules and aspects that they add in and different people that you're aware of and different things that it turns into that. When I first got into, I was like, Jake Wolf, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, what's going on? And Jake kind of, Jake and Wolf kind of guided me through this picture because I'm getting my ass kicked by things. I'm like, I don't know, like none of the stuff that I started with playing the game is there, or I can't
Yeah.
find it. I don't know where it's at. Like
Yeah.
squirrels, I got no squirrels. I
Yeah.
got no squirrels. I don't know where any of it's at.
So like the mechanic is, so in Act 1, you have basically two kinds of resources. You have blood, which you get from sacrificing existing creatures to summon new ones. And then you have bones, which any creature that dies gets you bones. And there are some creatures in Act 1 you can summon with bones. It's neat. It kind of lays the groundwork for what is later to come in Act 2, where Act 2, it's almost like 5 different card game variations, right? So you still have
Yeah.
a faction that's blood and bone, but then you have one that is magic and based on runestones you got to place on your board. Another one's based on like Hearthstone style energy that you get one every play of turn. And then there was a third one too, I think, about ghosts or something. There's like 4 different variations, and there's
I
in-game
think
booster packs you buy. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the
There's
bones
magic.
are still there. It just becomes a major portion
Yeah.
of a type of deck
Yeah.
instead
Mhm.
of just an offhanded addition to
You get
the blood
a
deck.
ton of more options that are in the
Right.
bone section that weren't there before. So yeah,
Right.
Wolf's right. It just expands
Yeah.
upon what's already
So
there.
yeah, you're right. So you have the animals and the blood, and then you have the undead with the bones, and then you have the energy, and then you have the wizards. That's the 4 different factions, and you can focus on one faction. And I think when you start Act 2, you have to pick one to start with.
Yeah.
But you
Yeah.
can buy booster packs in game, and you get cards as you play through Act 2. and you can definitely branch out. And the one tip I told Chard was, I mean, feel free to just abuse the deck crate button. There's a deck suggestion button, and it looks at all your cards and kind of puts together some combos for you. I tweaked a few of them, but it was fine. But I love the card variety. There's so many cards to mess around with, and it's awesome. What got me though is Act Two. The art style goes from this like cabin in the woods 3D style to this overhead, like you said, Chard, pixel Pokemon style. I wasn't
Yeah, it's
digging it
very
so hard.
Pokemon looking.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
wasn't quite into it. I love the new cards, but I kind of wish they still had the same cool art style from Act One.
Right. I don't know. You guys now, once you do all the things and you get to the third act, because there's Act 3 in there, you guys were very meh about it. But I'll tell you what, I thought Act Three's like visuals that they had was cool. Like so so in the first act, you're in the woods, you're in the cabin, everything looks very woodsy, it's very earthy. Well, in Act 3, you're taking on P03, which is one of the computer, which you find out, spoiler, was the stout or the
The
stout,
Stoat.
Yeah,
shout, the stoat
the Stoat. Yeah,
was him as the card was another one of the factions. Well, he's now challenged you the same thing that Leshy was challenging you to, but now it's more futuristic. So there's more lanes on the board, and your cards are LED slash like
yeah,
floppy disks. So you're using the battery power to fight PO3 instead of Leshy, but it's the same concept. And where you guys got lost on it, you said Dark Souls, and I laughed because it's very very
Well,
true. When you lose, you're reset on the map, and you have to
yeah,
start like wherever your last bonfire or save point or midpoint was.
yeah. Act 3 goes very heavy on a sort of RPG exploration mode,
Mhm.
where Act 2 doesn't feel like you get very punished. Act 3 is like you lose and you get
Brutal.
sent way back.
yeah. They go
And,
back.
depending on if you leave an area, the enemies can respawn, but at least it warns you about that. It's like, hey, the things you've killed will respawn if you go this way. Okay,
Right.
fine, I'll wait.
But if
But
you do clear an area and go to a midsection, it clears everything out. So if you go
Right.
back for some, like if you're in that midsection and you want to go back to the area you were just at, they clear it. There's no fights. It's all clear, so you can go back and forth to explore things if you missed anything
yeah,
earlier on.
I
Yeah.
I think what Act 3 lost for me that Act 1 had, whereas the fact that Act 3 is a very linear sort of RPG experience, whereas Act 1 was roguelite.
Hmm. Hmm.
And then, I mean, fortunately, Act 3 also brought back the escape room aspect.
Yep.
So it had that to it, but it was a lot more uh it it's a much more subtle escape room that's harder to find solutions to things.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's some things I didn't quite understand. I think there's a one particular puzzle you have to spin it around and click a button and timing. I didn't want to spoil it, but there's a timing aspect to it I did not get until I had to look that one puzzle up, and that it was very obscure.
Hmm.
I think for me the big difference is the card game aspect. The cards are not as powerful as in Act One. Act One and even Act Two, the trick to those acts was to find a combination that you can exploit, and the game actively encourages you to break the rules and exploit where possible.
Yeah.
And like in Act One, the big one for me was you have your squirrel cards, and there's totems you can unlock in the game, and one of the totem combinations basically means when you sacrifice a squirrel, it goes back to your hand or something. So basically, lets you
Oh,
get
okay.
infinite blood.
Right.
That
I
with
got the three
certain
blood one. That's my favorite.
yeah, with certain creatures, I exploited that and I breezed through Act One. Once I eventually got that combo, but I had to play many different rounds. Act Two, very similar.
Yeah.
I think I had a combination with bone creatures, where I was just feeding bones. One generates bones, another one destroys itself, and I kind of got a combo going. And I broke Act Two, and I beat Act Two, and it kind of encouraged you to do those combos. Act Three, you're using energy based cards, and some of them are ranged so that they don't necessarily attack in their lane. They can attack any direction you want, but they only do like one damage. And some of the enemies that are coming down at you can be pretty devastating if you don't block them. And when you block them once, your guy dies, and you have to keep playing cards. And trying to feed enough cards without running out was very tricky. So I had a hard time with Act Three's combat, and I also
Mhm.
didn't care for the overhead roguelike elements. And honestly, maybe it's just because at that point I think I had put 20 hours into the game. I liked the game a lot, but once I got to Act 3, I was kind of like, "Is this it? Is this the final twist? Am I good now? I really love this
Right,
game, but I'm kind of ready to finish it." And it kept
right.
going, I think.
There is a card that you get from Act 2 that you can carry over into Act 3, and you can break it in Act 2, and it comes to you broken in Act 3, and you can wreck house with it if you do the right thing with it. It's one that
Which
dies and gets stronger every time it dies. I guess we're in
That's
spoiler territory.
Ouroboros, right?
You could take
Oberos?
the
Okay.
Yeah, you
Ouroboros,
can
you
get
could
that in
buy
Act 1,
Ouroboros.
actually.
Yeah, and you
And
you can
and
get
the
it.
Yeah.
power
I know
level
you buy
carries
it
over to
in
Act 3?
every time you die, the power level levels up, right? So you can go to
Right.
the sparring thing in the mage's tower and have it die, and it will carry over that power until Act 3. But you have to
Oh.
find the card.
Oh,
You have
shit.
to find the
Okay.
card in the escape room to get it, and it's in a
Right.
familiar location that's where he goes, "Ah, this place glitches out sometimes, and some of Leshy's crap shows up in here." And it's hidden within that. You just have to unlock it to get it out.
Huh.
I was dumb and didn't break the card. I just
Yeah.
bought it because I didn't think about it. And then I read about it because I was like, how do you like you guys said, you just got to look some of the shit up. And I went, fuck, I could have done all this damage in Act 2 and brought this thing with you, and then you
Oh,
could just own the board with it.
Yeah.
dude, there are people who like massively unbalanced the card in Act 1 to where you can like one shot the moon.
Yep. Yep.
Well, the other aspect that was really cool was there's a bit of an internet connection in the game. In Act 1, when you die, you create a death card. You basically, you get
Hmm.
to pick. I think it's like the power from one card, the ability from another one, and the life from another card, and you can make these custom cards. And the idea is like Leshy's collecting people's souls and capturing them in cards, right? And that's those talking cards. That's he captures them the same way. But that aspect carries over into Act 3. I think they even show up in Act 2 to a degree, but all those cards that you generate, also cards that other players generate, kind of go into a pool and they can randomly show up in
Yeah.
your game. In Act 3, they show up as bounty hunters, and they're usually quite overpowered, but those are
Very
player made
overpowered.
cards. But there's one boss battle in Act 3 that we have to talk about. I don't know if you guys remember, but it's the one that connects to the internet. And there's actually a sequence, a step in that fight. I think it's round 2, where you make a card on the fly, and it takes that card and it sends it online to somebody else playing Inscryption, and you've got to wait for that other player. And if they beat their round 1 against that boss with your card, you win round 2. And if you don't, you basically get punished in your game.
That's a
But that
trip. I didn't get
concept,
to that part yet. That's
it's really
sick.
awesome. So when I play on the Switch, I had the Switch turn. I had because my daughter has a Switch, so sometimes I play with mine in airplane mode so she can play at the same time. So the first couple times I tried that boss, I didn't have internet turned on, and I was just getting shitty cards. And it's like, oh, I can't connect to the internet. I thought that was just a gag. But when she
Right.
was done for the night, and I turned the internet back on just casually, and I tried the boss again, and it's just like holding, downloading up a card or uploading your card, waiting. They're still fighting, they're winning. Like it has commentary every couple seconds until eventually you get that
That's so
ruling. And
cool.
I didn't realize at first it was literally
I
someone
did
else is
not
playing
realize
Inscription
that
at the same
was
time.
That is
yeah.
Yeah,
so cool.
it's really
God damn it. I
awesome.
love this guy's work. This guy's
Well,
work is so good. It's so clever.
yeah, it's that out of the game meta stuff I just love. And
Right.
he's done it in all 3 games, right? Whether he's pulling your
Right.
Steam friends list or or fake reviews with people's names on it or connecting to the internet. It's just wild stuff.
Yeah.
I do love it a lot.
And well, I guess this is probably oh wait, before we move on to the next one. After you beat the game, you get access. This was not necessarily the case at the beginning, but now
Yeah.
it was patched in later. Now, when you beat the game, you get access to what is referred to as Casey's mod. And in Casey's mod, it lets you actually go back and play a proper roguelite version of Act
Yeah.
1.
Mhm.
And it actually ramps up the difficulty as you do it because you have to choose handicaps that, make you weaker in some way. And you
Right.
have to meet a certain point threshold to play that tier.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's neat because I think people when they beat Inscription or as they're playing through Inscription, they got past the first act. They're kind of like, I just really liked Act 1. I just wanted to play the card game. The rest of it's really cool, but can I just play the card game? And at launch, you couldn't do that after you hit a certain point. But But now with Casey's mod, you can go back and play Act One as wherever you want. But there's tweaks to it balance wise, like that exploiting the squirrels thing that was taken out. I think there's a few other things that are changed around. The maps, the bosses are in random order now, so it's more gamified, which I definitely appreciate. I didn't get a chance to spend a lot of time with it though. Oh, disconnected.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't sure if it was me or what.
No, it looks like we got disconnected. Give me 1 second. I think
Ah,
we're just waiting for Chard to reconnect. Sorry, folks. Just wait a sec for Chard to rejoin.
Chard.
There he is.
I'm sorry, I
Nope.
pressed the wrong button.
Yeah, I'm not sure what happened there, but we're back. Sorry about
We're
that,
back.
guys.
Well,
Dinosaur
But
story.
yeah,
anyway,
that's a
you were
joke.
saying.
That's a deep cut. Yeah, so I mean, like, I do appreciate how Casey's mod lets you go back to Act One and just play Inscryption as that card roguelike game that you thought originally it was. I love how that's a thing in this game, and it's really well done.
Mhm.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
I
no.
I found that I suck at it because I haven't played the game in like a year. So I went to try and play Casey's mod this week, and oh boy, I lost a lot. I not good anymore. But I also found that my save file, for whatever reason, it wasn't kept, and I found that I'm not the only person that's happened to.
Hmm.
It doesn't seem like it's an issue anymore, but for people who stopped playing a long time ago and came back to play, I guess it wasn't syncing to the cloud or something a while back, and so
Oh,
I
weird.
lost my file. So I had
Hmm.
beaten the game, and my file was just gone because I had uninstalled it after I beat it. Apparently, it didn't
Hmm.
sync to the cloud at the time.
You
But
know,
now, for whatever reason, my cloud sync file would not swap over to my Steam Deck.
I
For
did
whatever
notice
reason,
when I streamed it, the videos that you guys were watching, what I did on my Steam Deck also didn't transfer over to my PC. So, and I've been playing a majority of it on my Steam Deck versus the PC. So there's some kind of connection issue. There has to be because I was like, I was further than this the last time I played it. And I just played it and said, fine, whatever, fuck it, it's cool. But when I
Hmm.
went back to my Steam Deck, it was where I left off. So I don't know.
yeah,
I
it
wonder
seems
if
to have
how
a
big
different save file repository there for that.
how
Mhm.
big are the save files to this game? Because the only time I've had issues like that with Steam's online cloud saving is when the files of the saves themselves is big. So maybe with all the
Um,
unlocks and the cards, they're pretty large.
Maybe.
my save file that I was trying to transfer over because I found that there's a hidden way in the game to actually get access to Casey's mod and all that pretty quickly instead of having to play through the whole game. It was
Okay.
a 44 kilobyte file that was not transferring over. So it is not a file size issue.
It should not be syncing. There shouldn't be issues with syncing. That's weird. I don't know.
Yeah,
So it
mine
just
always
was
says it's
not
up to
going to
date
my
when I
Steam
fired
Deck.
it up. So
Hmm,
very
okay.
bizarre, very bizarre connection. So
I do want to. I guess that's a good point to jump into his next game, which is Pony Island 2.
The
Jake made me
Panda
watch the
Circus.
trailer for this today. Yeah,
Panda
Pony Island 2
Circus,
Panda Circus.
I
And
can't wait.
honestly, this looks like it pulls from stuff he did in Pony Island 1, stuff he did in the Hex, and stuff he did in Inscryption.
Yeah.
Yep,
It's got his hand in all of that, and it looks
yep,
super cool.
yep.
Yeah.
I'm
Like
very
if you
excited. I think it comes out this year too. I'm pretty excited about its release
next year. Like
next year. Okay.
he
Oh,
did the
just switching
smart
that.
move with his trailer. At the end of the trailer, the year kind of glitches between 2004 or 2024, 25, 26. So
Yeah.
because I mean it's done when it's done. Like he has no reason to rush this game out,
Yeah.
especially the games he makes. I mean, Inscription came out in 2021, so he's been working on this for a few years, but I don't think he needs to rush it. But I love how the trailer starts with an art style that reminds me of Inscription, but then it definitely has side elements of other game styles like the Hex and just everything amalgamated together. And like it has what's his name? Pro ZD is that voice actor YouTuber? That's pretty
Hmm.
funny. He looks like he's in the game as well as a character. Just wild
Yeah.
to see.
And
we need to link up with this guy and get the press to cancel on Pony Island too.
um, I do want to mention, so with stuff that happens in these games, it kind of makes me think of this game. Not Daniel Mullins, but it's a game called Lose Lose that came out in
Mhm.
2009. And this is a weird game, and I know we're on a bit of a tangent, but it's got a meta aspect to it. So I'll give you the Google shorthand description here from the website. Lose Lose is a video game with real life consequences. So each alien in the game is created based on a random file on your computer.
Hmm.
If the player kills the alien, the file it is based on is deleted.
Oh shit.
That's messed up.
If the player's ship is destroyed, the game itself is deleted.
That's crazy.
So you either succeed in the game and delete random files on your computer, or you fail at the game and the game deletes itself.
I'm
It's
good.
called lose
I don't need that.
lose.
Lose lose.
Yeah,
That's
I don't
funny.
need random files being deleted from my computer.
I would probably not play this game, but it's an interesting concept, and it
Yes.
sounds in the vein of what Daniel Mullins would do, but I guess a little more sadistic,
A little less
masochistic, I guess, since you have to
Yeah.
So it's a Mac
knowingly
OS
do it.
game. I'm reading the reviews or comments. Steven Totilo of Kotaku says, Venture Beat says, calling the game scary, saying that in 3 seconds I had to reinstall Call of Duty 4 in Unreal Tournament and replace several icons.
Oh
Because
my
they
gosh.
did horrible in the game.
Wow.
What a concept. I mean, that's like, I get nervous about iron mode in some games where it's like you lose a character in a game and that's it, or you lose your save file permanently. That's
like the
scary enough.
Nuzlocke or whatever.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like that kind of thing. I can't imagine having actual files on my computer deleted. That's funny. Something that probably would not happen today, right? I don't think Steam
Right.
would ever allow something like that.
Well, I don't think this is a game that was ever on Steam, but I do remember hearing about it way back because I was really heavy into following, indie game Reddit subreddits and things like that once upon a time. And so I would see and learn about these random games that some of them were in development for a long time and all of a sudden showed up years later on Steam. And I'm like, hey, I remember when that was like being showed off as, what do you think of my game? And
Yep.
this was one of those games that I learned about on that subreddit.
Well, you never know. Like some of those games end up being the next Minecraft, right? Like I said in the Minecraft episode, right? I used to see Notch post on the TIG forums back in the day. I used to haunt around those and mess around with a couple things. And hey, look at this voxel thing I've made. I'm like, oh, that's neat. That's cool. Oh, look at alpha. Sure, I'll check it out. In Java. All right, neat. 20 years later, look at it now. It's $1 billion company that he sold off. Like you never know what an indie game that you see now may be in 10 years, what it's going to be.
Yeah.
And that's just neat.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, I mean, when I saw Pony Island, if you had asked me what game he would make, 8 years later, I would never have expected Inscryption. Like, it's just, there's no way.
And it looked like a high school project, like somebody just threw some shit together, like you said. And initially it obviously was, because it was on his website. It was his own little thing that he expanded upon and then sold for it. And again, it's super inexpensive game to purchase to play on Steam. I'd definitely buy all that stuff to support this guy's work. It's too good. It's too good.
It's one of those experience games you have to. I hate talking so much about it because I just want people to experience it for the surprise. But these are the kind of games that are so hard to get people to actually play. Like Frog Fractions, and then the other one is Glitter Mitten Grove. I keep telling people you need to play these two games. You really need to play them, and not just play them. Play them. Right? Unlock what's hidden inside. It's worth it. But you show people the Steam page or Glitter Mitten Grove, and they're like, "What the hell are you doing?" Right? It does not look like
the same thing with Pony Island.
Yeah,
you
same
look
idea,
at Pony
right?
Island, and you're like, "This is horseshit." Literally, this is horseshit. What are you trying to get me to play? And then you play it, you're like, God, it's so much darker than that. You don't look at Pony Island and be like, oh, it's a game about your soul being possessed by the devil. Like, you don't think of it that way. It's such a trip.
Sinistar in chat is saying Doki Doki Literature Club is another one you people need to play, and that's absolutely
That
true.
game
Because at
is
first glance, I thought it was just
absolutely
a visual
evil.
novel, and like I've tried those. That's not my thing, but no, Doki Doki Literature Club, it goes places, and it's a
It
visual novel, yes,
goes
but it goes places, and it's worth
places.
playing and checking out. It's one of those
Yeah.
games, right? Yeah, I love these. I love this as a genre of games. The games that kind of just get meta and go wild, and it just
Yeah.
yeah really rewards a
Agreed.
player to check it out fully.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I think to wrap all this up, basically, what I think the best way to describe anything that you play from Daniel Mullins, especially one of these three, it is do not judge a book by its cover because it is so
Huge.
much better and deeper than that than what you would expect. And if you want something that's totally like you said, that just hits the meta, it does cool things with the internet and grabs your Steam information and fun stuff in a safe way where it's not deleting files. uh Go, it's really well done. It's the brain capacity that is put into these games. It just takes you places you didn't expect it to go. And even when you describe it to somebody and you play it yourself and see it yourself, you're like, what the fuck, but in a good way. So
Right.
highly recommend at least these three games to try out. They're very cheap on Steam. They're worth picking up. I even think Inscription's like it's either 15 or $19. I don't think
It's
it's
No,
bank
and it's
breaking.
Inscription
so
is
worth paying.
20.
Yeah.
The Hex is 10, Pony Island is 5, but they come as a bundle. You can get them as a
Yeah.
bundle if you wanted.
I would scoop
And
up the bundle if you don't have
that
them
is
already.
20% off the standard price if you bought the bundle. So
Worth
Yeah,
it.
like all
Worth it. These
three is
games are
easily the length of a standard AAA title. Like there's so much
yep.
gameplay in those. Inscription, I think I easily put in 30 hours in Inscription. Like
Yeah,
before I
I'm still
finally got
playing
the
it. I've been
concept
playing
of
it
it,
for a
I just
week.
kept playing it. You
yeah, I had
Mm.
27 hours when I beat it, I believe.
Yep. I don't even want to see how many hours because I'm terrible at card games and I'm sure it's up there. So
know.
so all right, guys. Well, I think this is a great send off. Go play those games. Check them out. We have been press B to cancel. Is there anything coming up you guys want
Yes.
to talk about?
Yeah, definitely want to shout out a few of us. Actually, four of the five of us are going to be guesting on another podcast in a couple weeks called Superpod Saga. Check us out there. It's run by a gentleman named Aaron. He's hilarious. I love his podcast. We also have a couple guests planned for Press B as well in the near future. So I'll make sure we'll update on Twitter and on Discord when that happens. We also have some retro coming back. We have a few episodes that we're planned that are more retro inspired because we've been kind of off of 2023 games and more modern stuff lately, but we have retro coming back as well. So we'll keep everybody updated on that.
Also, we got our game of the year announcements coming up here pretty soon
Right.
too.
Ah,
So
yes.
keep your ear to the ground for that. All five of us are going to get together and announce what our decisions for our game of the years will be coming up here in very short amount of time. You'll be seeing about that pretty soon. So you
Is
can
it
come
next
and
week?
boo us. It might be next week. I was like, I
Remember.
have to keep that close to my vest, but that's fine. Yeah, so probably next week you'll hear about our game of the years that we selected. Now remember, when we pick
No.
our game of the years, it may not necessarily be from that year. It's going to be what we thought out of 2023. Any of the games we played really, really called to us. Now some of them will be, and some of them may not be. So,
Sorry, it's the
um,
26th. I think is when we were planning on doing
Yeah.
it, right?
2
oh, the
weeks.
Unless that
26th.
changes.
Okay, so perfect. There you go. I have started playing my Sisyphean game. I've been playing Horizon Zero Dawn over on Twitch. You can catch me this weekend playing some more of that. It's been a lot of fun. Sinistar has been chipping away at his Sisyphean game, his Sisyphean game of Witcher 3. He's actually been putting it up on Discord so we can join him on the ride too. I don't know where you guys are with your homework.
Look, fuck you. I haven't installed Street Fighter 6 in a while. I have to. Because I got a Steam
Well,
Deck. I've been playing games on the Steam Deck, and I can't play a fighting game on the Steam Deck. That's the one game I need to use one of the controllers for.
you
So I haven't
have
really touched it yet. And
endless controllers behind
I
you,
know,
endless
but
amounts.
I can play games in bed on my Steam Deck, and that's what I've been doing a lot of. Marvel Snap ain't advancing rank on its own. I have to sit and play it.
We've created a monster, guys. We've
And
created a
I
monster.
also have 2 hours of Buck Bumble, which apparently I was being told by another gentleman from another podcast. Dave from Remember 64. He says Buck Bumble is good, and it's one of his favorite games on the N64. He likes it. So we'll see how painful it is. I know when we did an N64 a bad game episode a while back, I played Buck Bumble,
made the list.
and I hated it. It was awful.
Made the list.
But he says it's good. So I don't know. Maybe I have to give it its full 2 hours. And we'll see.
Oh yeah, the Metacritic score is a 9.1
Of Buck Bumble.
Granted, that's based on 8 ratings, but
still, that's really high.
That is really high. Maybe the soundtrack is that good. Maybe it carries.
It is good. Yeah.
IGN gave it a 7.2. So I think you skirted the rules a little.
Maybe.
Dude, I played it. That was an awful game, but I mean, I'll check it out. We'll see how painful it is. But I mean, who am I to defy the wheel of pain? It's the execution of this wheel is flawless. The system works. We'll see how it goes.
Your punishment is nigh. All right, guys.
Anyway.
Well, thank you everybody for coming and hanging out with us. We appreciate it. We will be back again next Friday. Earlier bat time. Same bat channel. Apologize for the late start this time around. But with that, this is Press B to Cancel signing off. Thank you, guys.
Good night, guys. I always choose Mantis God.
Mantis God's good.